The work that's up is kind of a big selection, I would say, of work I've been working on for the last 2.5 years. I wanted to experiment on my own problematic of language, meaning that I wanted to see how the limits of my language could exist. So going from, let's say, a painting which is ultimately flat into a painting which could, let's say, have some kind of relationship to perspectival image or representational image, where one can feel the space within that represents a space that we may know of. So that's why in these paintings we get kind of, let's say, a painting, this one here, which is very flat, and then we may get a painting here, let's say, that deals with an image within an image, and then I'll put down these yellow lines, was to kind of even suggest more that it is an image and only an image and not a reality. The only reality which really interests me in painting is the problematics of painting themselves. I always want to push my work to the limits it can go to. Often I can work on a painting for several months, even nearly sometimes a year. For example, this one here, the green and red one, I worked on it, on and off for 1.5 years. It changed, and the last thing, as you can tell, most likely, as it reads, is the red imposition of the red onto the green and the white, as just to create a double image problematic. I was born in England, from a Czech father and an English mother. I always drew, and that was what I was good at. I spent hours drawing, and at 16, I just dropped school. Normal school. Couldn't be bothered to get any diploma. Started painting in art school at 16 and studying drawing, painting in a very classical class, in fact. So I left art school at 20. And I opened this squat in the east of Paris. One could live off nothing in 1982. So I would paint on anything I found. Funnily enough, in the zeitgeist of the time, without knowing I belonged to the zeitgeist of the time, I was doing exactly what everybody else was doing, either in New York or in Germany, was painting on anything I found. Like big tents or doors or car bonnets, chairs. And I would paint these figurative things. I came out of a figurative environment. It wasn't right for me. It was a naivety to it. So I began to change. And then it came the 5-year gestation of what really was me as a painter. And what really happened was that when I left France and came to New York, I became more and more aware of people like Donald Judd, Dan Flavin, paintings of Blinky Palermo, Amy Knoebel, and that gave me a wanting to come back to New York, even if those artists were even American. But I began to realize there was a possibility in this town that there wasn't in Paris. I'm very interested in the idea of seriality, but I'm also really interested in the idea of painting as a unique object. This one, for example, was a thought that I was getting too much into the unique object within inside the painting. So I wanted to break up the unique object and create more of an internal repetition. But in that internal repetition, they became a problematic of staticness. Funny enough. So slowly, I wanted to create some kind of humor, and all these neon lights or 80s disco light thing, and brought in these kind of all those things you put around your neck that you break and they have all different lights on them. So I began to play around with internal color variation to have a pull and a tug, so that you weren't only looking at that, you're also looking at this. So you're able to detach yourself from the form. And I have no problem with making beautiful paintings if they turn out beautiful. And sometimes paintings, perhaps this painting is beautiful, I don't know, perhaps it is, but that isn't why I made it. In fact, on purposely I put palette mess in it. I put chunks of dried paint. It was in the green, and there are chunks of dried paint in it, and it's kind of like, it's like kind of bad skin, or I'm still kind of debating on this one. For me, this is quite an ugly painting, and it's so ugly in a certain way that it's disturbing to me. I think it's more interesting to put painting on the edge than trying to please the eye.